It's Friday night, 1976. You're 17, standing on the corner outside Miller's drugstore, and you need to call home. Your date ended earlier than expected, and you promised your parents you'd check in by 10 o'clock. You push through the heavy glass door of the phone booth, the overhead light flickering on automatically as the door closes behind you. The small space smells faintly of cigarettes and cologne from the countless people who've stood in this exact spot before you. You lift the heavy black receiver, drop a dime into the slot, and listen for the familiar dial tone. The rotary dial feels solid under your finger as you carefully dial your home number, watching through the glass panels as other teenagers walk by on their way to the ice cream parlor. This booth is your private sanctuary in public space, a place where you can have a conversation without the whole world listening in. The booth protects you from the wind and noise of the street, while connecting you to anyone, anywhere. When you finish your call, you carefully replace the receiver, push the door open, and step back into the night, knowing that reliable communication is always just a dime and a phone booth away. This was the phone booth. For nearly a century, from the 1880s through the early 1990s, it was America's lifeline to the world. It was where emergency calls were made, where travelers checked in with family, where business was conducted on street corners, and where romance blossomed through whispered conversations behind glass doors. At their peak in the 1960s and 1970s, there were over 2 million payphones in America, with phone booths serving as essential infrastructure in every neighborhood, on every downtown corner, and at every highway rest stop. The golden age of phone booths reached its zenith between 1950 and 1980, when these glass-enclosed communication centers became integral parts of American urban and suburban life. The classic Superman-style booth, with its distinctive folding glass doors and overhead light, represented more than just a place to make a call. It was a symbol of connectivity, privacy, and reliability in an increasingly mobile society. The design of phone booths was carefully engineered for both function and durability. The glass panels provided visual connection to the outside world while offering acoustic privacy for conversations. The overhead light ensured visibility during evening hours and created an inviting beacon for potential users. The folding door mechanism was built to withstand thousands of daily openings and closings while providing weather protection. Inside, the metal shelf provided space for phone books, note-taking, and personal items during extended conversations. Phone booth culture developed its own etiquette and social norms. There was an unwritten understanding about waiting patiently for the current user to finish, respecting the privacy of conversations, and keeping calls reasonably brief when others were waiting. Emergency use took precedence over casual calls. Parents taught children how to properly use phone booths, including the importance of having correct change ready and speaking clearly despite street noise. These shared social rules created order around what could have been chaotic competition for limited communication resources. The business model, supporting phone booths, was elegantly simple but highly profitable. Local phone companies installed and maintained the equipment while collecting revenue from each call. The coin-operated mechanism was largely theft-proof and required minimal maintenance. High-traffic locations commanded premium placement fees from building owners. The combination of consistent usage and low operational costs made phone booths one of the most reliable revenue streams in the telecommunications industry. Different types of phone booths serve different community needs. Downtown business districts featured enclosed booths that provided privacy for important calls. Residential neighborhoods often had open-air phone stands that offered basic service without full enclosure. Highway locations included weather-resistant designs that could withstand extreme conditions while serving travelers. Airport and train station booths were designed for high-volume usage with enhanced durability and sound-dampening features. The social functions of phone booths extended far beyond simple communication. They served as meeting points where people could arrange to connect with others who were traveling or running errands. Students used them to call home for rides or permission to extend curfews. Workers used them to check in with offices or coordinate work schedules. Travelers relied on them to contact family, confirm reservations, or arrange transportation. The phone booth was America's original mobile communication solution. Privacy was perhaps the most valuable service that phone booths provided. In an era when most homes had only one shared telephone, phone booths offered a place where teenagers could have private conversations with friends or romantic interests. Adults could make confidential business calls without family members overhearing. People could reach out for help with personal problems without broadcasting their situations to household members. This privacy function was so important that many people preferred phone booths even when home phones were available. The geographic distribution of phone booths reflected population density and usage patterns. Urban areas typically had booths on every few blocks, positioned near bus stops, shopping areas, and business districts. Suburban neighborhoods had booths at shopping centers, gas stations, and community gathering points. Rural areas relied on booths at crossroads, general stores, and highway intersections. This network created a communication safety net that ensured basic telephone access, regardless of location or personal circumstances. Emergency communication was a critical phone booth function that saved countless lives and prevented numerous tragedies. Before mobile phones, phone booths provided the only way to quickly contact police, fire departments, or medical services when away from home. Car accident victims used them to call for help. People experiencing medical emergencies could reach assistance from any street corner. Parents could quickly contact children's schools or doctors during crises. The knowledge that emergency communication was always within walking distance provided peace of mind that modern mobile coverage sometimes fails to match. Romance and phone booths developed their own mythology in American culture. Countless relationships were maintained through phone booth conversations when young people couldn't afford private phone lines. Long-distance relationships were sustained through expensive but precious phone booth conversations. The phone booth date, where couples would meet at predetermined booths to talk privately, became a recognized courtship ritual. Business usage of phone booths created mobile office capabilities decades before mobile phones. Traveling salespeople used them to contact clients and confirm appointments. Real estate agents coordinated property showings from street corner locations. Service technicians called their offices to receive new job assignments. The payphone network enabled business mobility that wouldn't have been possible with only stationary office phones. The decline of phone booths began gradually in the 1980s, but accelerated rapidly through the 1990s, as multiple factors converged to reduce their necessity and profitability. The introduction of mobile phones provided personal communication devices that eliminated the need to seek out public phones. Initially expensive and limited in coverage, mobile phones eventually became affordable and ubiquitous, making phone booths redundant for most users. Vandalism and theft became increasing problems as phone booth maintenance costs rose. The valuable metal components attracted thieves who would strip copper wiring and coin mechanisms. Homeless populations sometimes occupied booths for extended periods, making them unavailable for general use. Drug dealers discovered that phone booths provided convenient locations for conducting illegal business while appearing to make legitimate calls. These problems increased security concerns and maintenance expenses. Urban development and building modernization reduced available space for phone booth installation. Sidewalk expansion and aesthetic concerns made building owners reluctant to maintain phone booth locations. Downtown revitalization projects often removed phone booths as outdated infrastructure. Shopping malls incorporated internal communication systems that reduced demand for exterior phone booths. Economic changes in telecommunications also undermined the phone booth business model. Deregulation introduced competition that reduced per-call revenues. Credit card phones increased operational complexity. The overall profitability of maintaining extensive phone booth networks declined significantly. Safety concerns began to outweigh convenience benefits. As urban crime rates increased in some areas, phone booths provided concealment for criminal activities and created isolated spaces where people could be victimized. Law enforcement expressed concerns about drug dealing and other illegal activities conducted from phone booths. Insurance liability issues arose when phone companies were held responsible for crimes committed in or around phone booths. These factors motivated removal of booths from many locations. By 1995, The number of pay phones in America had dropped to fewer than 2 million, and phone booths specifically had become rare outside of a few urban centers. The infrastructure that had supported millions of phone booths was dismantled or repurposed. The distinctive glass-enclosed booths that had been familiar fixtures of American streetscapes for generations began disappearing from corners nationwide. What disappeared with phone booths was more than just a communication method, it was an entire approach to public space and community infrastructure that prioritized universal access and shared resources. Phone booths represented a commitment to ensuring that everyone could access basic communication services. They created micro-environments of privacy within public spaces and served as community anchors. The reliability and simplicity of phone booths provided communication security that mobile technology sometimes fails to match. Phone booths worked during power outages, didn't require battery charges, and functioned regardless of network congestion. This infrastructure reliability represented a different approach to technology deployment that prioritized universal access over personalized convenience. The social spaces that phone booths created fostered community interactions that are harder to replicate with personal mobile devices. People would naturally gather around phone booth areas, creating informal meeting points and social zones. The shared nature of the resource encouraged consideration for others and community responsibility. Phone booths served as neutral territories, where people from different backgrounds would interact around common communication needs. Modern communication technology has gained mobility and convenience, but lost the universal accessibility and community infrastructure aspects that phone booths provided. While mobile phones offer superior functionality and personalization, they also create digital divides based on economic status and technical literacy. The shared infrastructure model that phone booths represented ensured communication access regardless of personal financial resources. If you remember the weight of the phone booth door closing behind you, the security of having a private conversation in public space, or the reliability of knowing that communication was always available at familiar street corner locations, you remember a time when infrastructure served everyone equally, when privacy was protected even in public spaces, and when community resources created shared responsibility and social connection. Where was your neighborhood phone booth? Do you remember important calls you made from glass-enclosed sanctuaries, or the comfort of knowing emergency help was always just steps away? Those details matter because they represent a time when communication infrastructure was a shared community resource, when public spaces included private opportunities, and when universal access was considered a fundamental requirement, rather than a market-driven luxury.